Hello everyone and welcome to our channel Biodiversity and Conservation by Ambika Prasad Research Foundation. So today we will start with part 3. So why need to study medicinal orchid and their restoration? As we know, orchids are a flowering plant. It is a beautiful flowering plant and it has an aromatic character and it has a medicinal food and many other values. So we will talk about its why we need to study on specifically medicinal orchid and their restoration process. So these are the importance of orchid in ecosystem. It has climate indicator, it is medicinal values it has economic value, it has food value, it has ornamental value, it has cultural values. So here you can see orchid importance in ecological aspects, as orchid shows symbiotic relationship with trees in which they get their nutrition from them. This is a healthy relationship and in which no harm is done to the trees and there is no benefit to the trees from orchids. Such type of symbiotic relationship is known as commensalism. So orchids relationship with lichen, moss and mycorrhizal fungi, as epiphytic orchid in trees that have their roots in lichen and mosses are usually the healthiest because they prevent them from drying out and they gives humidity to the orchid. Here you can see the lichen. Lichens are found by a relationship of two organisms, an algae and fungus. Lichens are widely used as an environmental indicator or bioindicator as it indicates the air quality. So where there is lichen, there is a 100% chance that there will be also orchid. So it is a relationship with orchid. So here you can see the lichen and the orchid. So where there is lichen, there is always be a orchid in there. So here you can see orchid relationship with mosses. As mosses take nutrients and water from the trees and trees provide them to grow on their tree trunk. So it is also a concept of commensalism where two species collaborate in mutual benefits. So what are the mosses? So mosses are act as a sponge like and it soaks up water. When there is rain, it soaks up water and it takes longer and longer time to dry out. So it is a great habitat for orchid as in moist type humidity area for the orchid to grow on that. So it has a very important relationship with mosses. You can also see here fern. So fern, the tree fern that is mainly we will see in the tree trunk, it is also seen in the moist area. So it is one type of also a indicator. If you see this type of fern, then you will surely found the orchid on that tree trunk. Then here you can see some other relationship with tree mushrooms. Here you can see the mushrooms, tree mushrooms grow on the place where orchids are present. As you know that orchids don't take their food and nutrients or water from the tree, so where they get from water and nutrient. So it is velamen. Velamen is thought to function in water capture by the roots and in water retention in dry condition. So the epiphytic orchid that are prone to dehydration because their aerial roots typically only cling to the host tree's branches surrounded by leaf litter rather than actual soil. The velamen is a specialized spongy multi-layered structure. So it helps them to survive in the climate. So here you can see orchids on dead wood that are on the ground. For restoration process, we mainly use the orchids from the ground that are from deadwood trees or fallen orchids. So orchid importance on other species, faunal insects and spiders and Indian giant squirrel, the faunal species, and the praying mantis, bees. So many faunal and insect species depend on orchid for their shelter and food purpose. So here you can clearly see the orchid relationship with insect. Insect depend on orchid for their shelter and food. Here you can also see the orchid relationship with spider. Where there is orchid, the spider will form their home in that. So they used for their shelter or food because many insect trapped over there and they feed on that insects. So, as I was wandering in the forest and I observed some things that these mantis also means take shelter and food from the orchid that are attached to the tree trunk. So, these are my one of the observation that I've seen in the forest. So here another observation, as we were going through the forest, we have seen that some orchid leaves that are being eaten out, means the teeth mark of the Indian giant squirrel. So it has teeth mark on that orchid leaf species. So in summertime, I guess, in summertime, the Indian giant squirrel consume the leaf of Vanda tessellata to hydrate themselves and survive in summertime. So for faunal species like Indian giant squirrel, the orchid species is also important for them. So these are the life cycle of orchid. First flowering, fruit formation, seed dispersal by means of some insect or some species, then germination through association with mycorrhizal fungi, then recruitment to adulthood. Then again it comes to the all cycle lifetime. Then these are the restoration of orchid process. So as we know that orchids symbolize the love and beauty as well as the unity and fertility. So in mainly the restoration is mainly done for being threatened or endangered of that species, or where that place will be habitat loss or land clearing for urbanization. So restoration orchid is done for that. So first we will collect the orchid from disturbed habitat, land clearing areas, or from the mining areas that will going to be the mining part. So before that we will collect it from that. Then we will collect only from the dead wood trees. We will not collect from their actual habitat or actual they are attached to the tree trunk. We will never collect it from them because that is their uh, actual habitat that they have already adapt to that. So we will not disturb to that. We will only collect the orchid from the dead wood trees or the fallen orchids that are mean on the ground. Then we will restore it in a safe place before rainy season, because we will restore it before rainy season, so that after rainy season it will adapt to that environment and it will be settled to that area. Then we will tie up the orchid on the trees, having a good amount of growth of the trees. We will first see the growth of the trees, then we will tie on with the help of thread. We will tie the orchid on that trees. Then we will do monitoring like watering every day in the morning so it can adapt to the new environment and it will help the root to also thrive into that environment. Then management of work plan like looking after it in the whole before rainy seasons we have to look after it so it will not get mean wasted by that. So then after look after it, we will see that it is settled in that surrounding. Then we will have we will we will have a good amount of restoration of orchid in that particular area. So for the restoration process, first we will have to collect the orchid from only deadwood trees and fallen orchids, and we will first see the place where we will restore the orchid, and then after restoration we have to look after it so that termites and other things won't affect the orchid. So here you can see the orchid species and moss collected from the forest. So the fallen orchid like Dendrobium herbaceum and Vanda tessellata, and some many orchids are there that we have collected for restoration process. Then these are the mosses that are required the orchid to settle down, as it needs their moisture and some moist area to grow into it. Then these are our restoration of orchids. We have done restoration in many parts of the Odisha. So these are some of the glimpse of that. As you can see, the bulbophyllum species, the Dendrobium herbaceum species, and Cymbidium also, we have done many orchid restoration. So these the orchid we have collected from dead trees and fallen orchids. As we know, in this era, we have different type of diseases, and to fight to it, we need medicinal plants or medicinal orchids to fight against them. So first, for diseases, we need medicinal orchid. Then we need to study on medicinal orchid species. First, which are the which have a medicinal value and which have a food value, so it can boost our immunity to fight against that disease. Then to conserve the medicinal orchid, for that we need restoration process, as because of their habitat loss and land clearing for the urbanization and many more reasons, some medicinal orchids are becoming threatened and critically endangered. So for that, we need to conserve it by restoration. So restoration will help them to thrive their population before it gets extinct or endangered. So before restoration, we need to study on their habitat or food or shelter where they are taking or whom they are shelter giving. So it is like a chain type. So if we will restore the orchid, so which species will also be restored or will get their population in control by it. So as we know, or as we have seen in the literature or by many researchers, there is a lack of documentation of orchid species, medicinal orchid species, or no restoration work on medicinal orchid. So for that gap, we need to first fill that gap and do value addition on medicinal orchids. And we have to restore the medicinal orchids, so it will also be beneficial in our future reference for our uh, generations purpose. So so these are for all. Thank you for listening, and keep watching to our channel and keep subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much.